And now, a passage from Hawaii and Its People, the Land of Rainbow and Palm. Annexation of Hawaii to the United States, 1895 to 1898 AD. As we come to the last 3 years of the existence of Hawaii as a separate and independent nation and look back over the historical record of its past, it is seen that annexation to the United States was the inevitable result of social and political changes in the islands and of great national movements in the wide area of the Pacific Ocean. Whatever may have been the part taken by the few determined white men who effected the revolution by which Hawaii became a republic, at least in name, they were simply the agents in carrying out this minor result among the larger movements in the Western Hemisphere. The Pacific Ocean is now the great field of new national enterprises. Australia, Japan, China, and indeed all the great powers with maritime and commercial interests are factors in this modern phase of the world's progress. The Hawaiian group, a few small specks on the map, is a strategic point in the struggle for supremacy in this vast region. These islanders have been for half a century in fear of absorption by some powerful nation which might rule them with an oppressive hand. Kamehameha the Great placed the islands under the protection of Great Britain, at Vancouver's suggestion, to save them from a worse fate. The petty insults and exactions of ruthless representatives of foreign nations, backed by naval force, taught Kamehameha III in 1853 that only by annexation to the United States could his country be free from annoyance and injustice. Filibusters in later years constantly threatened the islands and were overawed solely by the powers that wanted the prizes for themselves. The missionaries, both Catholic and Protestant, were opposed to the cession of Hawaii to any foreign power, although, strange to say, their descendants have been among the foremost to achieve that result as a matter of political necessity and, as they believed, for the best interests of the Hawaiian people. In all times of danger, even the natives themselves favored annexation, and in Kalakaua's day, this idea was uppermost in the nation's thought. The United States have sustained for more than half a century an exceptional relation toward Hawaii, which has no parallel in their dealings with any other people. In this relation, many of the Hawaiian rulers have concurred. To the great American Republic, Hawaii has looked for a guarantee of internal and external security. The islands have thus been closely identified with the United States. The American government has maintained a sort of friendly protectorate for years. It has proclaimed that it would permit no foreign interference with Hawaiian affairs. By the Treaty of Reciprocity, it has secured exclusive privileges at Pearl Harbor while giving the islands an opportunity to attain great industrial and commercial prosperity. The continuous presence of the United States warships at Honolulu has maintained this close relation, which has kept Americans in Hawaii and induced many others to live and trade there. These facts were recognized by the men who established the Provisional Government and the Hawaiian Republic. They sought to strengthen their position as a popular government by declaring at the outset their ultimate purpose to annex the islands to the United States. The dethronement of the Queen was a mere incident in the movement toward annexation. The United States hesitated when the offer of sovereignty was made to them, but the war between them and Spain hastened the conclusion. The harbor of Honolulu, although Hawaii was a neutral nation under the international code, was needed as a coaling station. Pearl Harbor was not yet available. The Hawaiian Republic waived its right as a neutral nation, and troops and warships of the United States were allowed all the privileges of a time of peace. The American Congress, which debated long over the questions of right and advantage if the United States accepted the gift of the islands at the hands of a government representing a minority of the inhabitants of those islands, finally received them and incorporated them into the territory of the Republic as a war measure. Thus, the history of Hawaii as a nation comes to an end. The group, discovered by Captain Cook, an Englishman, under the protection of Great Britain in 1794, provisionally ceded to Great Britain in 1843, its independence recognized by England, France, and the United States the same year, now becomes an integral part of the territory of the United States, and as a nation ceases forever to exist. Its record is finished, its story told, the book is closed. We turn back a few of the last pages merely to recall some of the closing incidents in this remarkable drama of a nation's life. During the last few years since the Reciprocity Treaty between Hawaii and the United States was made in 1875, the islands have become very prosperous. The real estate of Hawaii has recently been assessed for $22,183,433. The personal property for $17,491,068. Of this sum, nearly $40 million, it is asserted that Americans now own approximately 3/4. The actual value of the assessed property is very much greater. It is only by such statistics that our readers can appreciate the immense development which these islands have enjoyed during the short space of 50 years under the civilizing and Christian influences brought to bear upon them. In the matter of education, too, there has been great progress. Of the Hawaiians, 84 out of every 100 over 6 years of age can read and write, while of the half-whites, over 91 in 100 can do the same. 98% of all Hawaiian children of school age are attending the schools where the English language is almost exclusively taught. There are very few countries where a common school education is so universal. The most elegant mansion in Honolulu, built by Princess Ruth, has been bought for a government high school. Turning then to consider the annexation of Hawaii to our own republic, we must remember that it is not a barbarous country which we receive as a part of our territory, but a land with much that makes it a valuable possession. With its delightful climate, natural productiveness, and its many promising features, it ought, under the fostering care of our American ideas of liberty, to become the garden land of the world. No wonder that Liliuokalani was loath to surrender her authority over such a realm, and it is not strange that she went to Washington soon after her abdication to secure, if not her restoration to the throne, at least her right, as she conceived it, to the crown lands which the new Republic of Hawaii held as belonging to the government domain. These crown lands are indeed a prize. They comprise 876,000 acres, being a portion of the land surrendered to the king when the acreage of the whole kingdom was divided up between the king, the chiefs, and the people. The king, Kamehameha III, received this half of his portion for himself as his private estate. This is the land valued at $1 million, taken and rented by the new government, but claimed by Liliuokalani as her private property. During the ex-queen's visit to Washington, when she filed her protest against annexation, the Japanese minister at Washington also formally protested against the treaty. The same month, June 1897, Honorable Harold M. Sewall arrived at Honolulu as United States Minister to succeed Minister Willis, who had died in office. During the month of January 1898, President Dole was in Washington in the interests of annexation, and Mr. J. O. Carter, the ex-queen's friend and advisor, also went to the capital to oppose the treaty. The ex-queen had already heavily mortgaged her private estate to resist by all means in her power the resistless sweep of manifest destiny, soon to become apparent in the startling events of this memorable year. Quite different was the conduct of the Princess Kaiulani, the ex-heir apparent to the throne of Hawaii, who had returned to Honolulu in October of the year 1897. Her birthday reception a week later was attended not only by the leading natives, but also by society in general, including even those who had been parties to the destruction of her royal prospects. She received them all courteously, and from that time became one of the leading young ladies in social and philanthropic circles. By her charming manners and lovely disposition, she won golden opinions of all. She was always a favorite in the islands. After the Republic of Hawaii was established, she never again lent her name to any discussion of the politics of her country. But alas, to the great sorrow of all who knew her, she died in Honolulu, March 6, 1899, and received the honors due to her rank and virtues in one of the most imposing funeral pageants ever seen in Hawaii. 250 natives drew the funeral car to the mausoleum where Hawaiian kings and queens repose in peace. It has already been stated that the War of 1898 between the United States and Spain hastened the annexation of Hawaii to our republic. The relations of the United States with Spain in regard to Cuba had been for some time in a very precarious condition when February 15, 1898, the blowing up of the United States warship Maine in the harbor of Havana startled the civilized world. The dark cloud of war hung threateningly over the situation, and on the 19th of April, the two houses of Congress adopted the joint resolution for the recognition of the independence of Cuba, demanding that the Spanish government relinquish its authority and government in that island and withdraw its land and naval forces. Preparations for war went forward with great rapidity. On the 20th of April, an ultimatum was cabled to Spain, giving 3 days within which Spain might decide to meet the demand and avoid a war. The same day, the Spanish minister at Washington asked for his passports and immediately left the country. The next day, the American minister to Spain was informed that the ultimatum was regarded at Madrid as the equivalent of a declaration of war, and he was given escort to the boundary line of Spain. April 25th, Congress passed a bill recognizing the existence of a state of war with Spain. May 1st, the brilliant dash of Commodore Dewey into the harbor of Manila and his destruction of the Spanish fleet were achieved. June 3rd, Lieutenant Hobson sank the collier Merrimac in the mouth of the harbor at Santiago de Cuba. July 3rd, the Spanish fleet under Admiral Cervera attempted to run out of Santiago harbor and was destroyed by the American squadron. On the 6th of July, the Senate, by a vote of 42 to 21, passed the resolution providing for the annexation of Hawaii to the United States, and July 7th, President McKinley signed the resolution passed by Congress for annexation, and the cruiser Philadelphia was ordered to Honolulu to raise the American flag over the islands. On the 9th of July, commissioners were appointed to consider carefully all the questions essential to the adjustment of governmental relations in our new territory. 2 of the commissioners were Hawaiians, President S.B. Dole and Judge Freer of the Hawaiian Supreme Court. 2 were United States senators, and 1 chairman of the House Committee on Foreign Relations. Thus, the reverses and delays which for years had vexed the supporters of annexation both in Hawaii and in the United States came to an end, which was at least hastened by the Spanish War. The need of sending reinforcements to Commodore Dewey at Manila made necessary the use of the Hawaiian Islands. From the moment of that use, annexation became inevitable. Meanwhile, in Honolulu, the excitement occasioned by the war news was increasing, and the opinion was publicly expressed that in the great struggle for supremacy in the Pacific, Hawaii would necessarily become the chief and central ocean station. This would end the uncertainty in relation to the possession of the islands by the United States. The question of maintaining the attitude of neutrality was earnestly debated by the Hawaiian government as well as by the citizens of Hawaii. If neutrality was declared, it would be unlawful for the United States vessels of war to obtain coal in the harbor of Honolulu. Transports conveying troops would be debarred from making Honolulu a port of supply. This would be of great disadvantage to the United States unless overcome by forcible possession. President Dole, in his official capacity, however, met the dilemma promptly, and prior to the destruction of Spain's Pacific Fleet, tendered to President McKinley all privileges which he desired in the conflict with Spain, even to the end of consummating a treaty of alliance between Hawaii and the United States. Had it not been for what has been termed the splendid American loyalty of Mr. Dole and his associates, the violation of Hawaiian neutrality might have placed the United States government in a position difficult to maintain either by logic or law. It might moreover have brought on grave complications with other neutral powers. By the action of Hawaii in waiving the rights of a neutral nation in this case, the cause of annexation became at once more popular among the people of the United States. The strategic value of Hawaii was acknowledged and frankly accepted. The keystone of the arch was put in its place by the action of Congress amid almost universal tokens of approval. That the people of Hawaii of all shades and political opinions were satisfied, if not delighted, with the final disposition of the vexed question, would seem to be proved by the reception given to the transport steamers touching at Honolulu on their way to reinforce Commodore Dewey at Manila. The first transports to arrive, June 1st, were most cordially welcomed. A committee of 100 greeted them off the harbor with steam whistles and other demonstrations. Crowds on the wharves and shipping watched their coming, and the next day the whole town was given over to the entertainment of the troops. Several thousand boys in blue were feasted from 10 o'clock till 2 on the grounds of the executive building, and were given the freedom of the town. Ice cream saloons and cigar stores were lavish in their free gifts, and the troops did themselves great credit by their good behavior. The Queen Dowager Kapiolani presented the Charlestown with a fine silk American flag in grateful remembrance of the honor shown to the late King Kalakaua. The Spanish consul entered a formal protest against the violation of neutrality, and if the Spanish fleet had not been destroyed in Manila, Hawaii might have been called to account for its action toward the United States. The ladies of Honolulu on the 6th of June organized a Red Cross Society. Again, on the 23rd, 4 transports arrived bound to Manila. They had on board over 4,000 men, During the afternoons of 2 days, the troops were fed in installments by the ladies of the city. The grounds resounded with cheering and college yells. The American colleges were largely represented by boys in blue, as before on the 2nd of June. The whole force of 1,200 troops from the China, which arrived first, were reviewed by President Dole. Several soldiers on the sick list were left behind to remain under the care of the Red Cross when the transports left on the 25th. In July, more transports bound for Manila arrived and were treated with lavish hospitality. News arrived on the 13th of July by the Coptic of the final passage in the Senate of Annexation. As the vessel, gaily decked with flags indicating the message, neared the wharf, all the steam whistles of shore and shipping were let loose. A salute of 100 guns was fired, and an impromptu procession formed led by the band and paraded the principal streets. With the additional good news of Schley's annihilation of Cervera's fleet as it attempted to escape from Santiago, the town was jubilant. It was reported by the natives that shoals of red fish swam into the harbor that evening. On great occasions, it is the native belief that immense numbers of this alalawa fish crowd the shores. August 12, 1898, the very day on which the protocol suspending hostilities between the United States and Spain was signed at Washington, the official transfer of Hawaiian sovereignty to the United States was made at Honolulu with appropriate ceremonies.